of this type of attack.
So we have a lot to unpack there. Joining me now to discuss is legal analyst and former assistant state attorney, Keith Gross. Keith, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You have a new book, Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. I want to point that out for people who want to learn more about you. They can find that book wherever books are sold, and also my favorite place, on Amazon, where you get it fast in almost less than 2 days. So Keith, give me your first thoughts on this. Apparently another leftist, radicalized against ICE this time, going and shooting detainees and then killing himself.
Hey, Stacy, I'm praying for the victims of today's shootings and their families. I'm also praying that the Trump administration is able to make some significant strides in stopping this radical leftist violence. Every day, the threat of extreme leftist violence grows because the rhetoric is coming from the Democrat Party that Republicans or the president are some existential threat, fascists, Nazis, however you want to put it. They're somehow trying to convince people that violence is acceptable.
So, Keith, I have to tell you, the more I review and listen to their statements, I can't deny what you're saying. And what's so interesting is that the news media is so sold out to the Democrats that they won't even ask the simple follow-on questions. There have even been a couple times, like Dana Bash. Earlier this week, Dana Bash was talking to Jasmine Crockett, representative from Tennessee, and she was asking her about some of her statements and saying, do you feel like your rhetoric is too strong here? And she kind of took her to task. It was actually a really good question. And then she allows Jasmine Crockett to sit there and spew even more hateful rhetoric as she denies spewing hateful rhetoric. She tries to deflect to President Trump, says that he said, things he want, beat people up, things like that. I've never told anyone to be violent. But she does say that Republicans want to destroy the country, are an existential threat to democracy. That's their favorite right there. It's like almost like a verbal tick. And then the other, like he's Hitler, he's Hitler-esque, he's a dictator, which are things that people who don't have a lot of intelligence will hear and think, Hitler, he killed 90 million people. I need to stop him, right? He tried to kill all the Jews. Hitler has to be stopped. If Trump is Hitler, he has to be stopped. And then they try to go and kill him. And it's not just him anymore. Charlie Kirk isn't here because someone thought he was a threat and a hate-filled, hate monger. And so the guy went and killed him.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing just false information spewed by the left, and there's a growing number of people now who believe that violence is not only justified, but it's righteous. And ironically, it's the same leftists who are shooting people that also want to disarm us so we can't defend ourselves from their radical activities and the criminals and the illegal aliens that they're releasing into our communities. And what we saw today was a targeted attack. This was domestic terrorism designed to send a political message. And it really echoed the assassination of Charlie Kirk. This looks like a copycat operation. There's so many common elements.
And then there's the fact that he wrote things on the bullets. We know that now. They have an image that's being circulated online. The messages on the bullets are anti-ICE. And so this is now, it's turning into a trend, right? Writing things on the bullets. The trans shooter of the school wrote things on the magazines. You have the things that were written on the Charlie Kirk assassination bullets. And now you have this. So it's something from a video game that I'm not familiar with, where they write things on the casings in this game. And now you see it happening here in real life. I'm wondering if the FBI can have, use their surveillance and all of the things from the Patriot Act to start to catch these individuals before they go out and do these things.
One would hope. I mean, I am thankful that we have men and women in our nation that, despite the risk of their lives, are willing to put on their uniform each day and go out and implement the president's agenda to remove criminals from our neighborhoods and communities. We can't let these leftist terrorists discourage people from doing the right thing.
No, we can't. But we also are going to have to start to figure out a way to hold accountable those who slander Republicans. And Keith, there's a list. I mean, you know me, I'm going to go and scour the bowels of the internet so I can bring you the actual receipts. All of these comments, Representative AOC, a Democrat from New York, said that ICE should not exist. Representative Becca Ballant, a Democrat from Vermont, said ICE agents are vigilantes who can't be trusted. These are people who are duly empowered law enforcement agents, and these elected officials are calling them, well, basically what, like a vigilante, that's a criminal. Vigilantes are criminals. No matter how much we watch, The Equalizer with Denzel Washington, that's a movie. That's not real life. People don't really go around destroying criminal networks, one man destroying an entire criminal network in a city. That's the job of the FBI, the CIA, the local law enforcement, the DOJ. It's not the job of so the characterization incites violence, in my opinion.
We've seen it come true. I mean, we're seeing these characterizations incite violence. But what's perhaps the most troubling is just the level of falsehood that we're seeing from the left. We're not seeing them come out and make reasonable statements based in fact or law. They're coming out and saying things that are inflammatory and typically dishonest. I mean, saying, for example, that President Trump is a threat to the Constitution because he's deporting illegal aliens is a great example of that. What they should have been upset about was the former president who would not enforce the laws, which is required by the Constitution. And so this whole idea of demonizing a president merely for enforcing the law is nonsensical. It's based on false premise that it's the president's issue that the law exists. It's Congress who passed that law. So if you want to be upset with someone, perhaps focus your attention on Congress and encourage them to change the law rather than accusing the president who is enforcing it of disrupting the constitutional order.
So I agree with you, but what can we do about the messaging? Because, I mean, I'm sorry, but Dana Bash asking one question of Jasmine Crockett isn't enough. I've seen some of the Democrat strategists, and they're on Two-Way and other channels talking about how dangerous all this is. But a Democrat strategist who says common sense things like that can't get on CNN or MSNBC to actually share the truth. And so I almost feel like the elected officials and those who still have the ability to get on these major cable networks are going to have to basically hijack their segments and say, you've got to stop Democrats from calling us existential threats because they're killing people. Their voters are killing people.
I mean, I think we're going to have to see this come from the bottom up. We the people have got to demand better of the people that we see in the news and the people that represent us in the halls of Congress and in other offices. You have freedom of speech in this country. That doesn't mean that we have to associate with you. If someone says heinous things and encourages despicable results, we should distance ourselves from those people and shun them from society. That should become such a shameful thing that they stop doing it because they need to be fired at the ballot box.
The need is at the ballot box, but you're right, because unfortunately, there are many Democrats who believe that somehow Charlie Kirk's assassination was his own fault. It's him. He said something that caused himself to be killed. I've heard that from regular people, and I'm not the kind of person who likes cutting people off. You're actually encouraged not to do that, to be long-suffering. As a Christian, you're supposed to turn the other cheek. But what you're talking about is what our polite society used to do. If you were someone who engaged in, vigilantism or the talk of vigilantism, if you were a person who couldn't be counted on for common sense, then people would shun you. It was an attempt to get you to moderate your own behavior. And I really agree with you, Keith, that we have to go back there. We have about 30 seconds here. Close us out.
We really do need to get back to the idea of morality and doing the right thing. Our whole system of government is based on a moral people who have an innate desire to do the right thing. We, the people, need to make our voice clear that we expect better from those people who represent us.
Absolutely. Legal analyst and former Assistant State Attorney General Keith Gross, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next, we break down President Trump's autism announcement with clinical psychologist Dr. Shannon Kroner after the break.